What's up, guys? Here with you, SC Wonderkid, episode 157. Here with my guy, Breton. How are you?
I'm doing really well, but Alex, I want you have to come clean. You have to confess to everybody. It was you, correct, that parted with €1 million to buy the napkin that signed Lionel Messi for Barcelona? It was you, right? I know it was you.
No. It still wasn't me. It wasn't me who got the napkin this time. Was it you, though?
Yeah.
I'm joking. 1 million.
No.
That was quite bold. That's quite a bold purchase. What?
For a napkin. I'm a little suspect, but I guess that stuff is verified because that was how many years ago? 26 years ago that napkin. I don't believe it, man. I don't believe it. But a fool has, a fool with too much money. Actually, I don't remember the saying, but there are people out there that will buy napkins, and I get it. But beyond that, Alex, we are at the precipice of the end of the season. It is upon us, the club season, and we are dangerously close to transferring ourselves into what will be a ridiculous international summer. And, there's no easy way to do this, but there's always football to talk about, and you got to love it, right?
Exactly. And that's why we're going to mention the team of the season in this episode. And we're going to talk about the Euro 2024 early team squads, because the Netherlands is still a provisional squad, but we have guarantees with Germany and France, which we will be mentioning, and some doubts still with new managers. Is Thiago Motta going to Juve? What's going to happen at Bayern Munich? We will try to let you know all in episode 157. But yes, Premier League team of the season. We're going to give our thoughts. I saw Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher's squads. They were quite bold with some. I saw 3 at the back with Carragher. I'm not going to go the same. But let's see if the people at home will agree with us instead of Neville and Carragher, which we will have the squads here in this video so you can see at the same time as we're mentioning their names. So, Breton, you have big snubs, right? Because this is impossible to fit with 11 players.
It is, and I am going to make a quick confession so we can get out of the way. I did go 3 at the back because for me, Alex, it was all about fitting as much talent localized in this season with kind of an impression or a concentration on those that do it or have done it really for the first time. So yeah, it was really difficult. There are definitely some snubs here, and there are some guys that are kind of 50-50, which is bonkers. For example, like Erling Haaland for me was 50-50, just because of the tactic. But this is one of those things where I looked at it, and on the surface, the fullbacks are definitely the weakest spot. And that's why I went with 3 at the back, because the fullbacks this particular season, there were some consistent names that but there was nobody that did it so well at such a peak level all 38 games. So that's why for me I went 3 backs. I just got to get that out of the way, because very rarely do I agree with Jamie Carragher, but in this instance, sir, I did. But what about you? Big snubs?
I have some pretty big snubs. Arsenal fans won't be liking me too much. Not in defense, but people up front, okay? So I have pretty big snubs. But before we talk about the team of the season in general, we have the announcement that Phil Foden is the player of the season in the Premier League. Totally deserves it. Gareth Southgate, you must start Phil Foden because he's a world-class player in the middle of world-class players with De Bruyne, Haaland. All the names of Man City are historic. So Phil Foden, keep going bold, and I'm sure that will be the case in Euro 24 too. And Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer became the young player of the season in the Premier League. Totally deserves it, just like Phil Foden. And Cole Palmer will have a say in Euro 2024. I find it ridiculous that people that say it's doubtful for him to go to Euro 2024. It makes no sense with how impactful he's been at Chelsea in such a short period of time. Both Phil Foden and Cole Palmer made in Man City. And Man City have been so dominant in the last 5 seasons of the Premier League. The team of the season, And the player of the season has been a Man City player in the last 5 seasons. It's Haaland. It's Kevin De Bruyne. It's Ruben Dias. It was Kevin De Bruyne starting, and now Phil Foden. Unreal.
There it is.
Pep Guardiola era.
Yeah. it is the Pep Guardiola era. And I just, before we move forward with this team of the season, which I'm pretty certain is going to have the player of the year in it, I think it's time to probably shed the nickname of Stockport Messi for Phil Foden. I think we need to start calling other people out there like the Parisian Foden or the Glaswegian Foden. But let's like retire this Stockport Messi thing, because Phil Foden is here. He's arrived, player of the season, and it is right. I'm going to admit I'm a little surprised. I'm surprised that it was actually awarded to him. It's not to say that he is not fully deserving of it, but I am a little surprised that in the end it was him. And that I think is maybe, I don't know, maybe that's a touch of.
It's because of England, mate. He needs more. He needs to do more for England. Saka has done more for England in terms of numbers than Phil Foden, and we all can see that Phil Foden is a better player than Bukayo Saka. So Gareth Southgate must improve how the squad plays in Euro 2024. They have to impress, because the best squad is the English squad. But now, team of the season. I have big stubs with Kevin De Bruyne. Just going to say that. But starting at the goalkeeper. I'm going to say so. Starting at goalkeeper, I'm going to put Raya as my goalkeeper of the Premier League this season. I think Vicario was phenomenal. I think Martinez was crucial towards Aston Villa getting their first time in UCL since 82-83, first time in the new Premier League era. But for me, Raya, the transition he's done now to Arsenal, he's been so consistent and a better option than Aaron Ramsdale. So I'm gonna give it to David Raya, the goalkeeper of the season in this team.
And he is the Golden Glove winner, is he not?
Yes, he
so
is.
I just don't think that was the right decision.
He was the Golden Glove last season. I didn't have De Gea.
I know. And De Gea is still waiting for somebody to come get him. I know he keeps every 2 weeks he keeps tweeting out a hourglass or something, or something's coming, showing himself saving a goal. I'm surprised nobody's got him.
Come to Sporting, De Gea. Come to Sporting, De Gea.
Yeah,
Schmeichel did it a couple of years back. He went from winning at United to winning at Sporting. De Gea, he wins at Sporting, he's back in the Spanish national team, maybe next to Pedro Porro. Try to convince him.
And that's the thing is, it's what are you waiting for, sir?
Exactly.
What are you waiting for? You're a hell of a goalkeeper, regardless of whatever people think or how polemic people are about him.
Exactly.
I mean, he's clearly gotten offers. So what are you waiting for? Don't go. You're not Zinedine Zidane, man. Don't be sitting around waiting for the perfect place. You only get so much time to play, but he's not going to take my advice. But anyway. I went for, listen, I looked more at statistics in this one. Very clearly, Arsenal, for me, best defense in the Premier League this season. I completely understand the David Raya. But I have to go here. And there was a dip of form kind of early on, but I have to go here with Emiliano Martinez. Behind only Jose Sa in goals prevented. They're marching into their first Champions League campaign in God knows how many years, like decades, half a century, 83. I think it is. Yeah, 82, 83. So not half a century. Otherwise, I'd be dating the heck out of myself. But like, he's got my vote this particular time around. I know recently he made a few mistakes, and the Europa League. He wasn't exactly. Was it the Conference League?
Conference League.
Yeah.
Conference League.
Conference League. Thank you. He wasn't exactly a wash in glory in that particular matchup that saw them miss out on the final. But Emiliano Martinez and what Aston Villa has done, this is one of those things where it just kind of, for me, it was like, well, has the team really punched above their weight? And even though Aston Villa has spent a lot, there's no doubt that Emiliano Martinez makes this team a Champions League contender, not just this year, but next year and the year after that.
So he's my goalkeeper. Spots, right? Not a Champions League contender in the Champions League.
Correct. He's a spot in the Champions League, which is huge for Villa, because that's spending That spending is teetering on the edge if you've looked at some of the financial fair play calculations.
It's true. It's true.
Aston Villa needs to be very careful moving forward, and I'll be really interested to see what Unai Emery and Villa do this offseason.
The other honorable mentions is Jordan Pickford, that we all know he's going to start for England, and Everton.
Yep.
He's been really important, especially in these latest months towards guaranteeing staying in the Premier League. So, so I'm going to say that my defense at the back. So I've got four at my Premier League team of the season with four at the back. I've got Raya in goal. I've got at the left back Gvardiol, because yes, he's been instrumental for Man City to win the Premier League here in the late run. Yeah. My duo at the back, Saliba and Gabriel. I cannot see Saliba with anyone else but Gabriel, because Gabriel hasn't improved a lot. He's underrated if people don't know the stat. And at the right, I'm going to put Ben White, because this is another player that shows the remarkable job of Arteta adapting him to this position and being fundamental for Arsenal to be in the second place. Historically, Arsenal had more wins in the Premier League than when they won the Invincibles with no losses, the Premier League. So this team wins because of the defenders and what they have at the back. So that's why I've got Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, and Ben White in my team of the season of the Premier League.
And speaking of Invincibles, we'll talk about that in a second, because it seems like another one has almost final whistle. I don't want to actually jinx them, but I'm looking at it. Anyway, I do agree with those. Hey, Arsenal fans can't be that mad so far. You did mention that it would be a highly Gunner-influenced defense here, but I do have to shout out, because I've got three center backs, two of which you have already included. I do have to shout out at left back. I mean, Anthony Robinson for Fulham. He has kind of dipped in form a little bit to end the season. I mean, so has kind of Fulham in general. But for much of the season, for much of it, right, when Josko Gvardiol had not yet revved up and not yet kind of really transitioned into play for Pep City, which he absolutely has near the end of the season, Jedi Robinson has been really up there as probably one of the best left backs. And I'm so excited to hopefully get a healthy Jedi Robinson in this Copa America, see what he can do for the U.S. I know there's a little American bias here, but we don't generally talk about Americans that even have a sniff at the team of the season, and I just wanted to make sure I mentioned him there. But my defense...
Udogie too. Another one that was
Udogie.
Really good in this first
started
season in the
so
Premier
hot.
League.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would even shout out on the right side, Pedro Porro, right?
Yes.
I think based on his original first half of that first season for Spurs, coming into this season, just the improvement alone, there's no doubt that he's a hell of a weapon. And I think if Big Ange learns to use him even better, he's going to be a fun one to watch from here on out. But anyway, my three center backs, and I'm actually like shocked just looking at other people's announcements these days and their, the pundits' team of the seasons. I'm shocked to see Spurs in there. As good as Mickey Van de Ven has been, as good as Cuti Romero have been, they have also been prone to really weird individual mistakes and obviously team letdowns. So I couldn't see putting them in, although I think they have some of the highest ceilings if they stay together. Cuti Romero and Mickey Van de Ven have one of the highest ceilings of center back pairings in the entire league, if not in the entirety of world football. They have the highest ceilings of what they can get to. Yeah, well, yeah, no, I mean, you've got quite a few in there, but I would put them easily top 3, top 5, and, Cuti Romero is still pretty young. But anyway, my three center backs, you already mentioned William Saliba. I mean, every minute of every game, I think, this season. Never really had a howler, absolute key to Arsenal being able to play that high line.
With a low
his
block
speed, his
Haaland.
recovery. Yep. Absolutely. And Gabriel, I think you have to throw in there, not only a key, not only massive improvement this season, but also a key to their set piece strength, which has been huge for Arsenal this season. And then I had to throw like Virgil van Dijk for probably 90% of the season was back to Virgil van Dijk, right? Okay. And what made me put him in 100% was the fact that this man was doing it. And don't get me wrong, Jarrell Quansah held his own, right? He did really, really well, but he had to do it this season alongside some youth academy products, some products that had to come up and had to learn the ropes and get thrown into the fire right away due to yet another injury crisis in Jurgen Klopp's last year. So Virgil van Dijk, I think, deserves even more credit for also being a mentor, for being a guy that influenced the young guys on that team, even Connor Bradley on the other side. So Virgil van Dijk definitely in there. So yeah, back three for me: Van Dijk, Saliba, and Gabriel.
With Raya in goal. Okay, Breton. Interesting until now. I understand if it's three at the back. I would agree with your statement, but I have four.
Beautiful.
So now, I wanted to give people visually, it's a 4-2-2-2 with me, okay? I've got two pivots, I've got two attacking midfielders, and I've got two strikers. So, you know my defense, and now my best midfield in the team of the season I have in midfield. I've got Declan Rice with Rodri in a double pivot. I've got Cole Palmer and Phil Foden in the attacking mid positions. I am snubbing Bukayo Saka, but if we're talking Bukayo Saka versus Cole Palmer this season, I've got to pick Cole Palmer. The importance he's had with Chelsea, the magnificence we've seen in given moments. He's carrying this team of Chelsea. And Arsenal, it's Declan Rice, it's Martin Odegaard. I'm snubbing these players, but it's because I have to put Cole Palmer in my team of the season ahead of a Bukayo Saka, ahead of a Bruno Fernandes, ahead of a Martin Odegaard, and Phil Foden and Cole Palmer. I hope to see them together in Euro 2024. Southgate, make it happen. And Rodri is not in the nominees of player this season, but he's guaranteed for sure in my team of the season, okay? Rodri and Declan Rice, that would be something that would be bombastic if it happened instead of going to Arsenal, Declan Rice, okay?
Nice
so,
word.
Wanted to say that. Bombastic.
Mr. Bombastic.
Exactly.
Semi-fantastic.
That music,
okay, so listen, like, yeah, I agree. I agree with a lot of those selections. But
what do we disagree? What do we disagree here?
I really don't know. In fact, I need you to almost repeat yours. You know what? I'm going to say mine. I'm going to say mine, and we'll go from there because obviously with the three, I've got an extra midfielder, which allows me to not snub somebody that I think you did, and you snubbed Martin Odegaard.
Yeah, I did.
I do know Martin Odegaard had a slow start this season, but boy, oh boy, has he been probably one of the more fun players to watch next to Cole Palmer.
It's true.
In the second half of the season, I've immensely enjoyed watching the work that he has done. But the double pivot, you're right. So let's see. From a tactical perspective here, what the heck am I looking at? A 4-2-3-2? Is that a real thing?
No, you got
it's probably not. 4-5-2.
You got three. 4-5-2. Yes.
I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. A 3-5-2, or a 3-2-3-2 is what we'd be looking at here.
It could be a 3-5-2 before you say the names. I just have an idea of how you put them. But
so you probably already know what I'm doing here, right? But yeah, the double pivot, it was a non-negotiable for me. Declan Rice, obviously, but Declan Rice not just with the expectation that he was going to be a pure six of sorts. Like he came in and obviously just. I'm going to contribute 7 goals and 8 assists as well for the heck of it, I guess. But he was much more than a 6 there. So it's not like you're putting too much like for like with Rodri. But Rodri and Declan Rice are there. And Rodri sneakily had 9 assists, also led the league, I believe, in progressive passes, which is not shocking to any of us. But then in front of them, I've got the triumvirate, if you will, of kind of wide 10s and a central 10, and this tactic makes no sense whatsoever. But very clearly across the board, I've got Phil Foden, Martin Odegaard, and Cole Palmer.
So you fit
behind
Rodri and Declan Rice, mate.
In front of
That's amazing.
It feels like I've jam-packed. I don't know how this would actually translate on the field, but it feels like I've jam-packed enough real talent on the pitch this season and deserved talent on the pitch this season, and that's to sit behind the strike force for non-negotiable for me to have Ollie Watkins on here. Believe it or not, if there was anyone that was going to be 50-50, for me it was going to be Erling Haaland. And that's simply, it's the Mo Salah rule, it's the Erling Haaland rule, it's the Kevin De Bruyne having to play more than 14 games this season rule. Well, just meaning like he set the bar so high for himself in this instance, right? And based on last season, right, he didn't quite excel, but he did what he was supposed to do, which was score goals, and they're right on the cusp of winning a fourth in a row. So I, in the end, instead of trying to literally pigeonhole another midfielder in there or switch to 4 at the back, I did decide to go with Ollie Watkins up front, Erling Haaland up front, 19 non-penalty goals for Ollie Watkins. It was non-negotiable for me just based on what he did to go with 13 assists, leading the Premier League. And frankly, if there was anyone else that deserved the player of the season, right, I really do feel like this season it would have been Ollie Watkins for me.
Bold, Bretton. I like it. And I like how you're mentioning Ollie Watkins because he's improved massively with Unai Emery. So, my team of the season of the Premier League, at the back I've got David Raya, Gvardiol, Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White. Now in midfield, Declan Rice, Rodri double pivot with Cole Palmer, Phil Foden in the attacking mids. And the strike force is Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins. Erling Haaland, top goal scorer. And if you disagree of Haaland being there, mate, he's become too good. Too good that everybody must hate. It's ridiculous. Top goal scorer in the English league. I totally agree with what you said. What set the bar high. Haaland, 36 goals last season. Haaland now, more than 25. He's been immense. Not as immense as Phil Foden, but he's been one of the best strikers in the world of football.
It's just funny to say, right? 27 goals and 28 starts this season, right? He's played 8 games less than Ollie Watkins, and just to say that that's kind of a ho-hum year, and that's the Erling Haaland effect. And Mo Salah is the exact same way. Mo Salah led the Premier League, I think, by far in chances created. Also was out for AFCON, was also out with a little bit of an injury too, but very clearly had an impact for Liverpool. But when you set the bar as high for yourself as you generally do, with Mo Salah being a legend of the game in the Premier League, Salah, that's just kind of...
we might have a team of the season in the Premier League now without Mo Salah, without Kevin De Bruyne, without Trent Alexander-Arnold, without Alisson. And if you said that to someone last year, they'd say, no, that can't happen.
Bonkers.
No, that's for sure not going to happen. And that is the case right now. So we live in a very interesting era in the Premier League. My team's dominated with Arsenal and Man City players. And Watkins, Cole Palmer is the only two that aren't of Arsenal and Man City. So, what's your team?
Before let me go through my team before I just some other mentions because there were some ridiculous seasons this season. But okay, my Premier League team of the season, my goalkeeper is Emiliano Martinez from Villa. I have 3 center backs: Virgil van Dijk, William Saliba, and Gabriel. And then my double pivot midfield, just like yours, is Declan Rice from Arsenal and Rodri from Manchester City. And then I've got a triumvirate, I called it, of playmakers behind my front two, which is just insane. I understand. And not realistic. Also understand. But it is across the way. On the left, you've got Phil Foden. Up top, behind the strikers, you've got Martin Odegaard. And on the right, you've got Cole Palmer. And then my strikers, just like yours, we're looking at Erling Haaland, and we're looking at Ollie Watkins, with Ollie Watkins being number 1 on that particular pole position or that position for me this season because of what he's done and what he's meant, obviously, to Villa. But just a fun this. I like this exercise just because it does force you to make weird cuts, but there are so many names that are missing here. Like Malo Gusto. But Leon Bailey. We thought Leon Bailey is somebody that, frankly, I thought he was done and dusted with Villa, right? I thought he was done and dusted. I didn't think that there was going to be a stretch where he winds up being any sort of an effective player because of his battle with injuries. And he winds up throwing out there 10 goals, 9 assists, and 22 starts this season. Right wing was stacked. Like, he's not getting in there, period. But it considering where he's come from, he deserves such a big shout out. And Unai Emery deserves a shout out too, frankly, because I mean, he's getting the most out of the players they've spent money on. And I just love what he's done. And then on the left side, you've got Anthony Gordon, Anthony Gordon didn't get in there. If I was picking a pure out-and-out left winger, I
And
think he's
Isaac.
probably next to Son. He's probably the best left winger in the league right now, right? Because Phil Foden has done his best work centrally. So then we're not even mentioning guys like obviously De Bruyne, Olise, who have injury-shortened seasons, but both of those guys had ridiculous, obviously, influences on their team's success late in the season. I know Michael Olise next to De Bruyne is a little weird to put them in the same instance, but obviously Olise for Crystal Palace in his last 10 games, just look up those statistics. They're insane. And De Bruyne in 14 starts had... I mean, I have this listed, and I'm going to screw it up anyway. How many? 10 assists and 4 goals in 14 starts before the final day of the season?
He became the second in the all-time list, Kevin De Bruyne, of assists in the Premier League with 112,
Amazing.
surpassing Cesc Fabregas. Ryan Giggs forever will be the first place in assists for the amounts of seasons he had at Man United. But the playmaking ability of De Bruyne, for me, is the best I've seen in the Premier League. Immense what he has done at Man City. I agree with you with the Aston Villa shots. I wanted to mention Douglas Luiz too, and John McGinn. I think that engine in midfield was crucial towards this team getting Champions League football. And yes, De Bruyne, a short season. Trent Alexander-Arnold, he'll come back stronger without Arne Slot. So it's going to be very interesting what we're going to see. And maybe a Cucurella. That's Cucurella and Malo Gusto. They've been really good for Chelsea. Reece James, impactful coming off the bench with an assist in the last week.
And
a
red card.
And a red card.
But no. I am going to say it because this is the only real Premier League talk we're going to have until we do something, midweek after the final game here. But I got to say it. I've got one toe on the hype train for Chelsea. One toe. I think that they deserve
structure.
And yes, structure. I know the money that they've spent, but I think I need to lay off the Pochettino insanity. I think he's starting to bring these guys around, and like you were saying, give them structure, give them roles, wade through what was just this ridiculous excess of talent that has been literally thrown upon him due to a certain crazy American's $1 billion spending spree. I think he's going to get the best in the long run out of a Moises Caicedo. We've seen more good than bad from Caicedo recently, and I think you've got the making of some really good football in the very near future.
The moment
so,
Conor Gallagher,
we'll
when the double pivot of Chelsea was Conor Gallagher and Moises Caicedo, it was much better than Enzo and Caicedo. So that's something he's got to work towards. And Messinho has been rumoredly confirmed to go to Chelsea.
Oh my gosh.
They've got Kendry Paez. They've got tons of talent in Chelsea Academy. So the next few years for Chelsea will be very, very bold. But let us know, do you agree with our team of the seasons in the Premier League? And what would you change? Let us know in the comment section down below. So, Bretton, reacting to national team squads that have been announced.
Oh, boy.
France, Germany, and the Netherlands have Netherlands provisional squad, but we can get the drill of who is going to Euro 2024. Starting with France, because I want to say, starting with France, but I wanted to say this before. Odds checker, the favorites to win the Euros, we got in 10th, Denmark, 9th, Croatia, 8th, the Netherlands, 7th, Belgium, 6th, Italy, 5th, Spain, 4th, Portugal, I disagree, 3rd, Germany, 2nd, France, and the favorites to win the Euros for the bookies, England currently. It's I don't know if I agree or disagree with these top 10, but it's just for the people to get a spotlight.
Get them all buttered up.
Exactly.
I'm going to say it right now. I don't think England's the favorite. No.
To win Euro 2024.
No. That defense, I know that Gareth Southgate hasn't announced the roster, but we can already, and you're expecting some surprises, I know, when we were talking offline. But that defense is scaring me. I mean, the fullbacks, I know you've got Kieran Trippier who's healthy. I know you've got
Walker.
Trent Alexander-Arnold now healthy. You've got Kyle Walker. There are it's similar concerns. Who they bring at center back, who they bring in depth is going to be really
Jared Braithwaite?
really interesting to me. And I hope they bring Jared Branthwaite. Yes, that's another kind of do I think he was close to the team of the season? Hell no. But do I think that he deserves a shout along with the Jordan Pickford for providing a whole lot of what's the word?
Pickford
Consistency
really well.
and toughness to the back line and what was another weird, actually pretty dang good season for Everton. If you actually take off all the point deductions, they would have been pretty dang good, at least compared to last season.
I'd
right?
like to see, for England, Euro 2024, I'd like to see Braithwaite go because he knows really well what Pickford wants in front of him. And I'd like to see Maino because I think he's inevitable to be in future Euros and World Cup. So have him learning.
Yeah, well.
So I'd like to see those two. I think they've deserved for what they've done in the Premier League. Adam Wharton would be really bold, but who knows?
Yep.
Who knows?
Yeah. And you've got Kane and Watkins, right, that are going. And I know Kane missed the final game of the Bundesliga season. So he ends his first Bundesliga season with 0 trophies but 36 goals to his name. I do need to ask you, though, I mean, you're probably going to bring a third striker there. And that striker, as you get deep into the Euros, probably will actually play some. Beyond Ollie Watkins. Who else are you bringing beyond, and I know this is more of a depth play, but Dom Solanke, Ivan Toney, or Callum Wilson?
I think he was going to call up Ivan Toney, but I would have picked Solanke. I think Dominic Solanke is going to be the biggest snub for this England squad. I hope Maino won't be a snub. And I hope Cole Palmer, because I still see people online saying he's going to be snubbed. That would be a ridiculous decision that would put Southgate out the door immediately for sure if he doesn't win the Euros. So I think it's going to be the strikers of England. Ivan Toney, Ollie Watkins, and Harry Kane. But I would have put Solanke ahead of Ivan Toney, personally, in my opinion.
And regardless, right, of Cole Palmer going or not, we do have to probably say to everybody, right, Gareth Southgate is likely out the door if he doesn't win this, correct?
I think so.
I mean, that's regardless, right? Regardless of selection, I think it's kind of one of those things, well, if we lose another final or if we lose previous to the final, sure.
I think it depends too on how they play, on the way they play too.
Okay.
If they play in a dominant way and then they lose to France in the final game, I don't think he's really out for sure, but I do think that the way they've showed that they've played with Gareth Southgate, if they play the same way, he's for sure going to leave. If I see the same England team playing with Brazil in Euro 2024, I think he's going to leave at the end, yes. So
what about De Serbi with England?
Graham Potter with England? Who knows? I think there's a lot of choices. But still,
get a little Italian flowing ever since Fabio Capello.
In the coffin already, mate. Let's wait and see.
I am.
Let's wait and see.
I am, man. I'm just feeling it. I feel for England fans. I'm just kind of looking. I know I'll get. I don't mind getting slaughtered in this one. I just think. I think England very clearly. It's going to be that. Obviously, how dominant that front six is, right? And whether or not that depth can hold out in defense. But it will be key for me. It's time for some young guys to come in. I don't know, like, do you bring a Mark Gahey back from injury? Probably not. No. Are you bringing Lewis Dunk, who I feel like has lost Jared Branthwaite. So it really comes down to whether or not Gareth Southgate sees what we see.
And I see the
right,
Group
Alex?
C. I think in Euro 2024 in Group C, England will be first. They have Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia. I think England's going to be passing first, even though Denmark and Serbia can be tough. But Foden, Kane, Jude Bellingham, seeing all these names, world-class names, they have to be favorites with this road to the final. Then let's see if it happens in Germany. But France, we do know their squad right now, and I think France are going to play with a front three of Thuram, Mbappe, and Barcola. I'm going to see more in the friendlies, but I think this is how they're going to have their team with Griezmann at the back, Camavinga, and Chouameni. I think this is the setup, most likely setup, that we will see in the first game for France.
Yeah. Well, I think once again, we do this all the time, right? And I don't have a full list in front of me, but I'm sure you guys can let us know in the comments section.
I've got one.
You could build an 11. You could build an 11 out of France's absentees, right? And that would compete at Euros. And obviously, seeing as good of a season as Michael Olise has had, compared to what Bradley Barcola brings. I feel for Michael Olise. I feel like he deserves to be there. But at the same time, he's not. He's not going. And up front to bring, someone other than like an Alexander Lacazette or a Jean-Philippe Mateta as kind of your deep striker option. Kind of tough to see as well for me. But hey, it's a strong team, and it's a team that has every bit of a chance as England as winning it. Although I'm going to say it.
And Colomwani ahead of Mateta, even though Glasner's doing wonders.
Colomwani. Come on.
I understand for PSG what he's done lately, but the dressing room knows.
Right.
He's been in that locker room in the final. And there's another thing too, Breton. Deschamps called up 25 players. He could have called up one more. He could have called up one more, and he didn't, because I think he knows the environment in this locker room. It's got to be locked in. And all these players, it's the last dance of an N'Golo Kante, of a Griezmann, of a Giroud. And I think this locker room have the most chance to win Euro 2024. And I'm sorry for Michael Olise not to be there. I would have loved to have seen it personally, but Deschamps knows the group better than me.
Yeah, and hey, Bradley Barcola is going to take this opportunity, and I think he's going to knock it out of the park. I think he's going to do really well for this, which unfortunately likely further cements I wouldn't say impossibility that Michael Olise does break in over time. Obviously not in the Euros, but over time. But hey, it is what it is. Bradley Barcola, Warren Zaire-Emery, 18 years old, man, getting to the call up with the possibility of maybe even taking the field next to an N'Golo Kante. I mean, that is crazy. And I'll be very honest. I have not been watching Al Ittihad this year. He's barely been in Saudi Arabia for a year. Can somebody tell me, has he been up to?
He's been good. He's been playing really good.
Right.
Okay, Karim Benzema has not been phenomenal. Jota hasn't been phenomenal for sure. Gallardo as a manager has been having some poor decisions, but N'Golo Kante being in this French national team is totally deserved. It's the first time in 2 years since the 3rd of June of 2022, and I'm for sure think he's going to be immense for France in Euro 2024, with Zaire Emery learning next to him, with a Camavinga, with a Fofana, which is quite an underrated midfielder in my view that I really like and could go to the Prem, who knows. And yes, Griezmann, the veteran, Griezmann, the engine of France, will remind people why he is a world-class player and the all-time goal scorer of Atletico de Madrid. When Griezmann retires, he will be perceived as a football legend, one of the best players in this last decade in football. So it didn't work out at Barca, but it worked out for France.
Yeah, and then he'll continue to be a legend on Football Manager because apparently he loves that game.
Maybe
and I love that he loves that game.
He could be a coach.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Or he'll join the development team. For all we know, he's got expert coding skills or something. But N'Golo Kante, it is bold, right? I mean, for Deschamps to call somebody that he had every right or every ability to call N'Golo Kante before this, but you're calling the 25 of 26 players, and you call N'Golo Kante after you haven't seen him for 2 years. No, obviously, you've watched him.
Exactly.
Club.
You've seen him.
But, like, all the Nations League games, everything in between. I know the logistics are a little bit different when you're coming from Saudi Arabia, potentially. But it's a locker room thing. It's kind of like we can't do wrong with N'Golo Kante here. So, and you're right. That's not even really the story. The story is going to be Tchouaméni. It's going to be Camavinga. And I love that you did give Youssouf Fofana a shout out because he's been immense for Monaco the second half of the season to get them back into Champions League football for the first time in a while. A little while. Not a long time, but a while. So once again, France is stacked. It's just whether or not the old guys up front, if you will, just kidding, but like Griezmann, Giroud, whether or not these guys can hold court again for a long, grueling, expanded Euro tournament.
It could be the last dance of Didier. It could be the last dance of Didier Deschamps with this France national team. Okay, so players like Kante, Griezmann, veterans, Giroud, that were really good, they could be thinking it's the last time they could be selected. If Zinedine Zidane becomes the French national team manager, some changes could happen, and one of them could be Giroud, Kante, players like this not being called up anymore. So, and the last thing, obviously, is Kylian Mbappe best chance to win the Ballon d'Or is by winning Euro 2024. The all-time goal scorer in a campaign of Euro 2024, I think it's Platini with 9 goals scored. So Mbappe, he can surpass that and definitely become the top goal scorer ever in one campaign of Euro 2024, and then win the Ballon d'Or. That is a road path that could happen. Yeah. So that makes it all so special. And Giroud LAFC, all my days.
Yeah. No, man. That's a good one. Obviously, that perpetuates the retirement league type of situation.
You could have an MLS player, Giroud, winning the World Cup. So that's another thing to be hyped up to watch LAFC.
The Euros, yeah. I mean, hey, we've already had one win the World Cup, technically, no?
Exactly.
But yeah, now we could have the Euros, and he's also a damn good-looking man too. He's gonna fit right in Los Angeles, I think.
Oh my days.
But I do have to say, Kylian Mbappe, you agree with me? I'd imagine that he should probably let people know where he's going. Previous to the Euros starting?
Yes.
Or are you going to wait until the end?
I think he has to not he has to. But if I was Kylian Mbappe, I would announce where I'm going after the Champions League final. He cannot take the spotlight off the team and off this team effort of Real Madrid. And I think the locker room wouldn't be...
Well, that's true.
It's not like they would be bothered, but they would be with a grain of salt with it. So I think it's after the Champions League game, he will announce that he's going to Real Madrid. I think.
Well, you never know. Somebody like Rodrigo or one of those guys might feel threatened and might drop a Champions League final hat trick just to say, bring it on, Kylian Mbappe.
I think all three will start. I think Rodrigo, Vini, and Kylian Mbappe will start at the beginning of this Real Madrid era with Carlo Ancelotti.
Where's Hendrik?
Hendrik's on the bench learning. Because when Hendrik's 22, Mbappe is going to be 30. So a long time to become a really good Galactico. But this France team, for me, they're the favorites with Kylian Mbappe being the best player in Euro 2024. If everything goes to plan, let's say, but Germany, yes. Germany are playing in home soil. Germany must be perceived as one of the main contenders towards winning Euro 2024. And I admire Julian Nagelsmann refusing to go to Bayern Munich and saying, I believe in this group, and I believe I can make history. I'm with him. I think Julian Nagelsmann could win a big competition this Euro 2024 or even a World Cup in the States. Who knows? But convincing Toni Kroos to come back to this team, a player with 7 Champions League finals, making a bold decision, not getting Mats Hummels man of the match in the 2 games against PSG. Nagelsmann has fixed ideas, and with these ideas, they could win Euro 2024. So I expect Antonio Rudiger being the best center back in Euro 2024 for Germany. I expect Toni Kroos, Florian Wirtz having a masterclass, and I expect goals from Füllkrug and Kai Havertz in Euro 2024. This team has a lot of players that can make the difference, and they're scary if us Portugal go against them. I'm not going to be too happy if it's in the beginning and the knockout stages. So, and it's going to be Scotland, Germany, box office first game, maybe. Scott McTominay against Kai Havertz. Who's going to score? I think it will be Kai Havertz.
Scotland needs to right the ship for that, for sure. But I don't understand, Alex, looking at this roster here, I don't understand how there is no room for Mats Hummels. I mean, Jonathan Tah has not been...
thing.
I feel like, it's a locker room thing. It's almost a negative to not bring a guy like Mats Hummels in this scenario. But Nico Schlotterbeck, yes. Antonio Rudiger, sure, right? But Robin Koch, and you've got Jonathan Tah.
Not too bad.
Waldemar Anton, and I think a couple, one of these guys might get axed before this is fully done. But I just don't know how Mats Hummels is not here. He's better than 2 of those 3.
And who do you think will start for Germany? Manuel Neuer or Ter Stegen?
Oh,
I think it's going to be Neuer.
I would go with Ter Stegen here.
But
that's really interesting.
I mean, if he's back,
I don't know, man. I just watched Bayern get 4 put past him, so I think I've got a little bit of recency bias here. Bayern were up 2-0 at one point thanks to Matthijs Tell, and then Hoffenheim stuck 4 past Emmanuel Neuer. So I'm going Ter Stegen all the way over Manuel Neuer. I think Neuer's lost a step.
I think Neuer will start in this World Cup, in the Euro 2024. But yes, I mentioned Rudiger and the midfield of Germany. Germany are contenders because of this midfield with Toni Kroos, with Gundogan, with Handrich, that is a great defensive mid we all see at Leverkusen, Jamal Musiala, Pavlovic, Wonderkid of Bayern Munich, Pascal Gross, underrated Swiss Army knife from Brighton, and obviously the best player in the Bundesliga, the magician, the genius, Florian Wirtz. That can be one of the best players in Euro 2024, if not the best player. Florian Wirtz for Germany, Kylian Mbappe for France. That can be a final that we all see, and we're like, who's going to win this Euro 2024? I'm not going to say Ballon d'Or because it's very early for Wirtz with Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, it is. But the addition, obviously, Toni Kroos, Gundogan, Robert Andrich might actually have a very large role to play here. I think Andrich or Pavlovic, one of them might not wind up going on the plane. Obviously, there's still some cuts that could be had here. But Robert Andrich has been a pleasant,
I think they'll both go.
Nice surprise for Leverkusen late this season. So I really do think it would be good. I think Andrich, were you about to say that he's probably going to start?
I think Robert Handrich will start for Germany in Euro 2024 next to Toni Kroos.
I think you're right too. Yeah.
And I think Pavlovic goes on the plane.
Right, and I hope you're right in that instance because I think they're going to need that depth there because it's all about letting Wirtz and letting Musiala cook.
And Maximilian Bayer could be a player that we all mentioned to go to a top team after Euro 2024. Who knows? He scores a late goal in an important game. I do believe that can be the case. No, and Thomas Müller, these veterans, it's a team that with a lot of players that in the right moments, they can make the difference. So I like this.
Yeah, and for those that don't know Maximilian Bayer, I mean, he's one of the reasons why Bayern got cooked at the end of the season here, 4-2. But he had 16 goals in 29 starts this season, and he's 21 years old. Obviously, that skates kind of under the radar because you've got, Harry Kane throwing 36 in there. You've got Seru Girassi putting in 28 goals. But ultimately, for a 21-year-old, a young striker at a mid-table team, Hoffenheim, that's a hell of a return. So it's some bold decisions from
Hoffenheim. In the past was managed by who? Julian Nagelsmann. So I'm sure Nagelsmann knows really well what Maximilian Bayer can do. And this German national team is a contender for Euro 2024 as a consequence of the good management of Dortmund, Bayer Leverkusen, and obviously Bayern Munich. They stay at the top. They must be doing things all right. So a good Bayern Munich, a good Borussia Dortmund, a good Bayer Leverkusen are the reasons why Germany are looking so strong with Julian Nagelsmann believing in this squad. So very interesting with the right momentum. And the Netherlands. Well, the Netherlands. I feel a bit disappointed, on being honest. When I was announcing these top 10 and I was seeing Croatia behind the Netherlands, I don't think that's the case. I think Croatia will have a better Euro 2024 than the Netherlands. This Koeman squad, I'm not too convinced. And if they go bold, it's because of the leadership of Van Dijk and Frenkie de Jong, or because a Xavi Simons, a Frimpong really go crazy in terms of their performances. But not having Mats Wiefer and Joshua Zirkzee is two mistakes before the plane even goes. So I don't like to see Brian Brobby ahead of Joshua Zirkzee. I don't believe that should be the case considering this season.
That's why they're 8th, maybe even lower. I if the right selections were made, I would have put them higher. I did have them originally as kind of one of my dark horses here, but that striker force, Joshua Zirkzee was definitely that's just dumb. It's dumb. I mean, come on. This guy puts in double-digit goals in Serie A, gets Bologna, helps Bologna back to Champions League football for the first time in forever. And I just don't understand how there's not room for him beyond a Bergwijn, Brian Brobby. I mean, a streaky Daniel Malen, who was good for like a small moment for Dortmund this particular season, but has been off as late. Cody Gakpo sometimes looks great, sometimes looks like heck. Memphis Depay, I'm kind of over him. I know he's got 44 goals for the national team, but and then you got Wout Weghorst. I understand why you're putting him there because he's still riding the momentum of what was that, the brace against Argentina in the World Cup. So I just think that's going to be their largest question mark. And to not bring Mats Wiefer is also just one of those head scratchers. I think he deserves to be there over Ryan Gravenberch, 100%.
And even De Roon. I like De Roon, but Weaver has had a better season than De Roon. Koop Miners and De Roon being there. I like the Gasperini effect in this Netherlands team when I see Koop Miners and Amar De Roon being there. But I cannot agree with it. I cannot agree with Mats Weaver being with the cuts. And again, this Netherlands national team for Euro 2024, I see underrated names like Quinten Timber. I like him a lot. Koop Miners, Ian Maatsen, that has been very important for Dortmund to be in this final. And I think Depay is underrated for the impact he's had throughout all these years in the Netherlands national team.
Fair enough.
He can become, I think, it's realistic to think that Depay could become the all-time leading goal scorer of the Netherlands, no?
Yeah,
so
it is. And
let's see.
Right. But Jeremy Frimpong, love it. You mentioned Mickey van de Ven, who I think obviously had a great first real season in the Premier League, even if Spurs were very interesting and infuriating at times. But the biggest one here, you already mentioned, Ian Maatsen for me. What a story. I mean, come on. On loan, yeah, I think he scored on the final day today in the Bundesliga. A nice goal as well. He'll be in the UCL final, arguably a lot because of him. And he makes the provisional Netherlands roster, all in one season on loan to Chelsea, or from Chelsea. I mean, tell me another time, and I'm sure there is an instance here, but tell me another time that somebody on loan from Chelsea has obviously done as well as somebody as Ian Maatsen. And Lukaku is the only one I think that I can really think of right off the top of my head. And that's one. Obviously
Chelsea.
But obviously, right, I know. But obviously Lukaku was obviously already a household name previous to going out on loan. So I feel like that's not really the same type of thing. I mean, Ian Maatsen, for people, apparently he wasn't better than Ben Chilwell or Cucurella for him to then be sent out on loan. And now to see him, I don't know if he's going to be in a Chelsea shirt next season, but I would for dang sure be watching him closely in preseason.
I'd stay at Dortmund because I think Cucurella for next season at Chelsea, I think he's going to be the left back. I think Ian Maatsen, best thing he can do is stay at Dortmund. Yeah. I think it'd be the best choice for both. Best choice for both.
The way the commentators were kind of phrasing it today, I don't know if they've got insiders or whatever, is they were basically stating that Ian Maatsen likely would not be back at the Signal Iduna. So we'll see.
Jadon Sancho, in all the likelihood, it'll be very difficult to convince Man United towards selling him. But interesting talk it was. Let us know, do you agree? Do you disagree with our squads and with our comments about the announcements? And like this video for more Euro 2024 comments just like this. Now, interesting news we had. Juve has announced that Maximiliano Allegri will not be staying next season. It has happened finally. If we're gonna see Juve winning the Scudetto maybe next season. Okay, now I'm going too bold way at the start of this video. But I love Cristiano Giantoli, the sporting director of Juve, and I think he's gonna make the right decision by getting Thiago Motta, the man who made Bologna be in the Champions League for the first time in so long, and now he's gonna go to La Vella Signora Juventus. So I think that's really good.
And the only thing I feel bad for here is Bologna. I mean, fought to get into the Champions League, and there you go. First time in there for a very long time, and you got to do it without your front man and Thiago Motta. And who knows? I mean, maybe Roberto De Serbi goes there. Maybe there's another. There are always young up-and-comer Italian managers, as it is. Apparently, there are 5 Italian managers of Euro squads this summer. To go off on a tangent, the next best is 2 French and 2 German, maybe.
I didn't know that,
But that's
yeah.
crazy. 5 Italians, right? Vincenzo Montella with Turkey. Who else? Well, you know what? I don't need to go through that list. I'm sure
Spalletti,
you can list them
Italy.
all.
Interesting.
Spalletti, Italy. You've got, I think, Albania is
Tedesco.
and Tedesco. Yes. You got it. I mean, you're doing pretty well here. Without me having the list in front of me. Where did I put the list?
Don't worry, Bretzen.
well,
And
you know
Coppa
what?
Italia
Yeah,
was
yeah,
won
we'll
by
find it another
Allegri.
time.
So the fact that they they made the decision not to continue with Allegri was a good call in my view. Andrea Cambiasu, there's a lot of Kenan Yildiz, Dusan Vlahovic, Bremer, there's a lot, Danilo, there's a lot of talent in this Juve team, and a good Juve team can win the Scudetto next season. I think Thiago Motta will bring Joshua Zirkzee and Calafiori. And Calafiori, if you do not know him, you will for sure know after Euro 2024. I think he's going to be impactful next to Bastoni and Scalvini. So,
Absolutely.
I wanted to
Absolutely.
call that.
But yeah, isn't it funny? Maximiliano Allegri, this was his second stint with Juve. And I don't know if you saw this. I think the last time that he was fired, or let go, if you will, was 5 years ago, also on May 17th. Oof. So both times he's been sent packing, it was on May 17th. But a lot of this was also off-field conduct, just definitely clashes with the front office. And I'm with you. I mean, let Giuntoli do what he's going to do with Juve, and let's see where this goes. And the first start, and I think we all knew it early this season, it was always going to be without Allegri.
Exactly.
I'm actually just surprised that it wasn't leaked or announced or whatever when you saw Tuchel doing the same thing and you saw Xavi doing the same thing and then 180ing, and now Xavi is also apparently having a spat with Laporta and Deco. Who knows? But it's crazy that all season they kept made it look as if Allegri was fully backed, and they at least got the Coppa Italia out of it. I am very intrigued to see what's going to happen with a Weston McKennie, though, because apparently they've come to loggerheads in terms of a contract, and you can't tell me that I'm being hyperbolic by saying that for about 75% of this season, Weston McKennie was their best player.
But best player, I don't know.
He was. I'm listen, I don't even think this is biased. Weston McKennie was definitely and most consistent, their best player. And then Vlahovic definitely came on late in the season. But I really do feel that. I feel that he's been huge for them this season. So I'll be really interested to see if we've
let us know how you think. You think about these comments of Bretzen. And we talk Juve, the other team that's been always in the news now that all these managers don't want to be with them. It's Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have been refused by Xabi Alonso, by Julian Nagelsmann, by Ralf Rangnick, Austrian manager Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace manager, and the latest one is the one that's managing right now. He says, I'm not going to stay, which is Thomas Tuchel. Fair enough on him, because now Bayern Munich are in trouble to face a Bayer Leverkusen team that have the right structure. Bayer Leverkusen, next season, they could be undefeated in football, something that has never been seen. And why does every manager refuse to go to Bayern Munich? Because they don't want to face this team in the Bundesliga and gets the second loss in the league for Bayern Munich in a row against a Leverkusen historic team. Greatness we're seeing with Leverkusen.
Yeah, it really is, and they have confirmed it. I mean, they are an invincible squad in the Bundesliga.
Give him the gold cup. Give Leverkusen the gold cup.
Yep. Yeah. We will see what happens. They've got one more fixture to actually get it done for the first time, I believe, in history, right? To see if they can be invincible the entire season. I think Robert Andrich also. The aforementioned Robert Andrich had a goal today as they ended up winning. But no, that Bayern, I think you're right. I don't know who takes over next.
I think
Hansi
they
Flick,
already
I know, was announced.
guaranteed the Gold Cup. They no more games in the Bundesliga, Bretzen. They still have the DFB Pokal and the Europa League final. But the Gold Cup, they deserve it.
They do. They do, and it's a pretty amazing thing to happen, and it'll be even more amazing if they could do it again next season and keep everybody intact. But yeah, I don't know. Who do you think? Who's the odds-on favorite for Bayern right now? I mean, we've seen other names come in, but Ralf Ragnick, no. Hansi Flick, yes, and then no. And they didn't necessarily say no, Crystal Palace, to Oliver Glasner. They just said, "Oh yeah, the going rate is 100 million. So if you want to pay 100 million for him, by all means, grab him." It's crazy to me. I mean, is it Roberto De Zerbi stepping down from Brighton? Could he get a shout there?
I think he could get a shout. I just don't think Bayern Munich are thinking outside of German managers with all this. I think Xabi Alonso was because he was successful in the Bundesliga. But when I see Nagelsmann, Ralf Ragnick, Oliver Glasner, Thomas Tuchel, the common variable is we pick German managers because we're Bayern Munich. So who knows? Roger Schmidt could get a call here at Benfica. I don't know if that's going to be the case, yes or no. But again, I think the refusal happens in all of them because of what they are facing. The Zerbi announcement should be very good. Okay, I think he should definitely get an interview at Bayern Munich because I think he'd be an interesting man for the project. But again, this is the Leverkusen team, undefeated, deserved the Gold Cup in the Bundesliga. Boniface got Rookie of the Season ahead of a Xavi Simons, totally deserving, and Ian Maatsen. And the Player of the Year of the Bundesliga is not Harry Kane with all those goals scored. It's Florian Wirtz, the best player in the Bundesliga this season, instrumental for Leverkusen to have no losses. So if they're going to beat this juggernauts of Bayer Leverkusen, they need to have a structure and the right manager to be at the helm. The manager that would have the biggest ego to not lose the league with Bayern Munich would be Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho at Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen of Xavi Alonso, that would be box office. The ego that Mourinho has, he would do everything possible to not lose to Xabi Alonso. Okay, so with the better team on paper, supposedly. So let's see.
They don't have the cojones to do that. They do not.
They refused Ronaldo. They refused Ronaldo when it was it was an obvious choice. So they might refuse Jose Mourinho. So let's see.
Well, I see maybe a De Zerbi in the future, and then I see maybe a Graham Potter return to Brighton.
Oh no,
at the Amex.
Sorry, to Brighton. I thought you were going to say Bayern Munich. I was like, oh no.
No. And it's weird that like Graham Potter was like, yeah, very interesting here at Ajax. What a wonderful little setup you've got here. This is obviously a joke. I don't have any interest in this. And Graham Potter moves on. That's really interesting to me.
Farioli going to Ajax. We thought Potter could have a chance to go to Ajax, but I think they made the right choice. Francesco Farioli, a fantastic defensive coach that did a really good job at Nice. I think
fell off a little.
I think with Jarrell Hudson there, he fell off a little, true, but the fundamentals are there. And if you know, like in Y-Scout, Farioli was one of the best team analysis in the platform. So Farioli has shown to the world that he knows football and he can do the right job in Amsterdam with Ajax.
And kind of an exciting development since you're in the Eredivisie for a second right now. Robin van Persie will take over at the helm of his first Eredivisie club, and he will be at Heerenveen. Yep.
Yeah.
This is a team that in the past, hell, I remember a 19-year-old, 18-year-old Michael Bradley playing for Heerenveen and some really amazing youth players coming through, obviously more Dutch players than just Michael Bradley being the only American that I know has obviously played and excelled there. But Robin van Persie at the head there, hey, it's nothing if not intriguing. And I know that in past years, they've been a little bit relegation threatened, but they wound up mid-table this year. But it would be fun to see them. One of the best, more underrated jerseys in the league, frankly. The blue with like the red hearts, the Frisian red hearts. I'm going to really, really enjoy watching a Robin van Persie at the helm there. But yeah, his first, I think, right? That's his first team appointment, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. It's his first team appointment. It wasn't Feyenoord, but it's at Edven, which Could
Yeah,
be
that's a
a
good stepping
really
stone.
exactly. It could be a really good stepping stone. And you said Michael Bradley. He was once at Edvin.
He was. He was.
Huntelaar
He was good. He
too.
was one of the. Yeah,
Huntelaar.
Huntelaar. Yeah, I'm
Ziyech.
sure there are other names.
Odegaard.
Ziyech. Oh my God.
Exactly.
Was Odegaard? Yeah,
Odegaard.
was there.
Odegaard was at Edvin, so a lot of players have
Wow.
passed by Edvin. And since we're talking about Edvies, I think it was a good bridge. Last topic in the managers. Do we believe Erik ten Hag will be the manager of Man United next season?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy, is it no?
My gut, my gut says no. He's not going to be the manager next season. And I just. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, what do you think here? That's the only thing. There is no yes. There is no yes in my vocabulary right now for this. I can't make my way around to it. It's just, but we don't really have a window into what Ratcliffe thinks.
I think they're waiting until the FA Cup final. I think the moment Man United lose to Man City in that FA Cup final, the decision is made, and Erik ten Hag will be parting ways. When you see Erik ten Hag on the mic in the last game at Old Trafford. Personally, I was a bit cringed out. You saw that the players were like, yeah, he's talking, he's having a good moment, but you didn't get the feeling of a man that is going to stay at the helm and he's a fix ideas. You didn't have that feeling. So Man United will have massive changes next season. A Casemiro will be going out. A Varane will be leaving. And Anthony could be leaving. And Erik ten Hag made the decision of Anthony coming, Lisandro Martinez coming, Casemiro coming, a lot of money being spent. And then you see Jadon Sancho that leaving was his decision. He's tearing up at Dortmund. You see Ronaldo that couldn't score goals. Well, he can score it. We see it in the Saudi. And then the facilities of Old Trafford too. They're you see the stadium needing proper
falling apart.
Falling apart. Old Trafford's falling apart. So
I shouldn't laugh about that. That's not funny.
It's something that should it's laughable, Bretson. That
it's unsafe. Yeah,
I agree. I agree that it's unsafe, and we shouldn't laugh about that.
That's not all Ten Hag's fault.
It's not.
That's not all Ten Hag's fault, but that means that there's a bigger problem here, I guess, than manager, and maybe that puts me more in the camp of keeping someone. But you're right. If he's lost the locker room, if he's lost the people kind of around him, there is no way forward.
The fault of Erik ten Hag being there is the same fault of the facilities being so bad. It's the same people that made that decision. So this new Aeneas group with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, they want to make new fresh decisions. And fresh decisions come with a new manager. So I'm really curious to see where they're going, because I've seen Gareth Southgate, I've seen Graham Potter, I've seen Thomas Tuchel, I've seen Conte, so many managers being talked, and I've seen even Thomas Franks to be at Man United.
Yeah.
So all of them, they could be better options than Erik ten Hag, and it's sad to see that it just wasn't a good match to see both at Man United. Yeah. So it is what it is.
It is what it is, and it looks as if it's going to be Chelsea that is the one that skates in to the final actual European spot, which is really considering where they came from. That's pretty dang impressive,
and that's
in
why
my opinion.
We have Cole Palmer in our team of the years and not Bruno Fernandes. That last season,
and that is why
that would have been the case. But yes, let us know. Do you agree with our comments towards the new managers? Do you agree with our Euro 2024 talk? And do you agree with our team of the seasons? If you're listening until now, don't forget to like this video. And again, thank you so much, community, for listening to another podcast. Until now, thank you for going bold, people.